Hello, hello, welcome back to the Bionicle Inspiration series where we take mocks from across the Bionicle community, have a nice chat about them, talk about the pieces being used, the techniques being used, and do our best to get you inspired to build your own unique mocks. Today we're going to be talking about some samurai-themed mocks. I've got some really nice ones here today, so hopefully if you're planning something along those lines, it can give you some ideas, but even just some of the general kind of, techniques and ideas that we discuss in this, I'm sure can inspire other things for you as well. So let's dive in. Take my hand, we'll go on this journey together, and we'll take a look at some of these cool mocks and see what we can glean from them. The very first one we've got is by Neves, and this is the 7 Kikuchio. So I really love some of the kind of like part spamming that's being used here. We can kind of see on, it's on the helmet, but it's also mainly sort of on the sort of, I guess, kind of dress area here, sort of towards the waist. That's the word I'm looking for. Not sure where that word went, but I found it in the end. So this sort of spoiler piece here, it actually only comes in a couple sets in red, this being one of them here, and you only get 3 in the set. So I imagine Dylan did that through Lugbulk or Bricklink or something crazy, I don't know, but he has a good quantity of them. And seeing them like this here, it really mimics how real samurai armor looks. Lovely to see some part spamming being used there to really effectively sort of mimic that look or that sort of texture, I suppose. It's just a very simple technique, but it really, really works. I like how that's also being partnered very nicely with some of that Praetorian Guard armor that we're seeing on the upper arm there. The Praetorian Guard set I often talk about on this show. So hey, if you're ever thinking about a set to pick up, maybe pick that set up because it's got some really, really nice pieces in it. Another Star Wars Ultra Build set that's being, or at least having certain pieces being used very heavily in this, is the Rey Ultra Build Star Wars set. And we can see a bunch of the cloth element that she has being used here for like a belt or other sort of like robes or different things like that. And I really like that, especially in conjunction with the Dark Tan minifigure cape that's being added here on his weapon. It seems like a fun idea to sort of add some sort of cloth or a streak of something onto a weapon there, just to kind of spice it up a little bit there. So I like that sort of trend of all the cloth pieces being used here. And honestly, that cloth element that Rey comes with is such a useful piece. Again, a piece I talk about a fair bit on this show. And it's amazing the amount of uses you can get out of that one specific piece. So lovely to see a bunch of those Star Wars Ultra Build pieces being perfectly blended in with some other parts here to make a very sort of realistic looking samurai here. I love too with the head design, these crazy weird looking eyes using the gears as teeth and then some actual other kind of like teeth claw elements there to mimic the look of a samurai mask. When you look at different sort of samurai source material and stuff, some of the masks that they wear can really look just incredible. So I think that's probably one of the more fun things that you can kind of play with the samurai is going absolutely crazy with the different kind of mask types and things like that, or even some of the like headwear as well, like when we see the sort of golden claw animal like tail pieces there. I don't know, a lot of these gold highlights I think are just some of the bits that really stand out on this mock here. So yeah, I don't know, really study some of that source material of actual samurais and, whether that's, historically accurate stuff or different art that people have drawn today or, stuff from video games, movies, whatever. There's a lot of different places you can look at that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot you can play with here, and this is just one example of how awesome that can look. But let's move over to another example of a very cool samurai mock. This is by Ayookanon, and this is Arcane Samurai. I really like the color scheme here. Dark green, red, gold. Something about that just feels quite fitting for a samurai, I suppose. I don't know. I just like it. You don't always need justification for why you like things. I just think it's a swell color scheme. I like that this is a very sort of system-heavy mock, and a lot of what Mr. Pate Kitongu, Ayookanon, however you want to refer to him, a lot of what he builds is very sort of system-heavy, but still fits very nicely in that sort of Bionicle pocket there. It's really cool. But the little subtle hints of actual sort of, CCBS or Bionicle-related pieces, I think really shine on this mock. We can see a bunch of these gold armor pieces being used on the knees or as the sort of shoulder pads there. And of course, these came in a few different sets. Like you got it on Akimu, but you also got it on some of the Chima Ultra Build sets. And that's, I think, where they originated and where they were a little bit more prominent. But it's amazing to see how that couples beautifully with some of these system pieces here in these different textures. It's lovely to see system and Bionicle working together, but it's really, really special when they blend quite flawlessly here. So a brilliant sort of integration of the two different types of Lego there. Very, very cool. And of course, we can see some of these black metru feet as well. Something about that just feels very sort of like a warrior boot or a shoe or whatever. So yeah, it works well. So lovely integration of some Bionicle elements. I love the finger design here, using some of these tan skeleton arm pieces. Now, these came in a couple different Ninjago sets as actual tan skeletons. But when you're building sort of a more, realistic humanoid character here, obviously you can stick with the sort of like Hydraxon finger design using the Exoforce robot arm pieces that we see all the time on this show and across many different MOCs and even certain sets like Hydraxon and stuff. But there's something very nice about this skeleton arm piece being used for fingers. It's just a very, very nice design, and I don't know how common those are in tan. Like I said, they only appeared in a couple sets. I haven't checked the price on them. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments below. But regardless, it works very nicely here as a very similar finger design to what we often see, but a slight variation on it. But one that I think works very well, especially on humanoid characters like this here. Another brilliant take on a sort of samurai helmet, like, we were talking before, how crazy you can go with those. Similar tropes, of course, kind of the way that it sort of flares out on the side, having that sort of crest with sort of two sort of sharp, lines kind of pointing upwards. And then almost sort of like Darth Vader-like sort of face, which I do believe was some of the inspiration for Darth Vader. Just sort of how all these sort of angles kind of lead towards the mouth, and it almost looks a little bit skull-like here, perhaps. A very unique design. A little bit less sort of like toothy. The original one we saw in Dylan's had, more of that sort of like fanged kind of teeth and stuff. This one here looks a little bit more like, I don't know, like it's got like a plate over the mouth or something. So again, different variations, but still more or less the same kind of look. It's always nice to see how people can, play with essentially the same thing, but doing it in very different ways. I love these flags that are being used here. I have some of this flag element myself. It comes on an old Orient Expedition set. I believe it comes in a couple different sets, actually, but it's such a cool piece, and it's, it's certainly perfect and fits very nicely with the color scheme in this MOC here. So definitely take a look at some of your different, flag elements, or other kind of those sort of plasticky pieces that LEGO can include in certainly in older sets, but you do see them today in more modern sets as well. I mean, also even just like stickers as well, that could work perfectly for a flag like this. But I love this idea of a samurai MOC that has this sort of like flag kind of sticking out of the armor on the back there. It's a nice sort of just addition to it, and I don't know, if you've ever, like me, I've found that before when I've built sort of humanoid characters and things, that you'll build it and you're like, it's missing something. I feel like it needs something behind it to kind of complement it nicely, whether that's like wings or a cape or something, certainly different characters in popular culture, different Jedi and things like that look so much cooler when they have the cape. Like if you would take the cape off of Darth Vader, it just wouldn't be the same, right? Some sort of like something on the back, whether it's a cape or wings, or in this case, a flagpole. There's a lot of different variations you can do there, and sometimes that can just be that nice little finishing touch that just takes the MOC from one place to another and makes it even better, and can just, I don't know, when you feel like something's missing, maybe it's something like that. It's really cool. And I feel like that's such a beautiful like accent point there on this MOC. Like it would look cool on its own, but I don't know, seeing it with that flagpole there, really, really something special. Final thing that I love about this is the crest on his torso there, just using some wing pieces and one of those droid arm pieces in gold that I briefly mentioned before, or robot arm pieces, I guess is the technical term from Exoforce. It kind of looks like a little bird's head there, and of course the wings looking like bird wings, obviously, but a relatively sort of simple way of adding in some sort of like, crest or just sort of detailing to this armor. It's only using a couple different pieces there, but man, does it look good, and it really sort of complements and completes the MOC. It's very, very beautiful. So lovely samurai here. Let's move over to the final MOC. This is by Roses Must Build, and this is Fly Samurai V2. I think immediately what grabbed me about this MOC is the idea, a fly samurai. I think that's, you could say he's a fly samurai, you could say he's a samurai that is a fly. Not my best joke, but I tried. Still, the idea of just combining two completely separate things and putting them together like that, and then coming up with a really cool concept like this, I love that. So maybe next time when you're looking for some ideas for a MOC, take two completely separate random things, smush them together and see if it works. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something so quaint about that, and I feel like it's such an easy way to get ideas for a mock. And like recently I built a crab mock that you can see on my Instagram. There'll be a link in the description below if you don't know the one I'm specifically talking about. But what kind of gave me that idea is I knew I wanted to build a crab, but then I thought, well, can I make it more interesting? Can I kind of spice it up in some way so that it's not only more exciting for me to build, but it's just when people look at it, they can be like, oh, that's such a really unique concept, instead of just, oh, it's a crab. Like, cool, I've seen crabs before, So for me, what was exciting about it is it's like, okay, here's my crab, but it's a robot crab, and yeah, the crab has like a container on its back that a goldfish is inside of. That's my idea for it. That's really cool. That's combining two sort of separate things, putting them together, and it's this sort of beautiful combination, right? So maybe that's worth having a think about in the future, sort of mushing things together and seeing what sticks. But let's talk about the mock. I love his sandals. That's such a unique sort of design there for the feet, even his little toes sticking out there. Very, very cool. Also seeing all these different tire elements being used here to sort of replicate his skin. That's just cool. A lot of these tires appear to have been sort of flipped inside out, so it gives it this more unique texture. But I don't know, yeah, there's something about that does look a little bit more fly-like. Surprisingly, it works very, very nicely. And it's a pretty simple way of building out these limbs. And tires are pretty common. I mean, heck, you buy one set, you're going to get at least 4 in that set, because that's how tires work, right? So, yeah, a very sort of cost-effective but really, really nice-looking way of building out these limbs. I love this fly head as well, especially here with the big old dome hat that he's got there. Very, very cool. And also his ripped, 8-pack that he's got going on here. Love the fact that he's using some of those minifigure mustaches there to form the individual abs. And even this sort of knight's helmet at the bottom there, just to kind of tie it all together. That's really, really cool. And then this sort of beautiful pop of, I believe that is azure, the color there. For his clothing. That's a lovely, lovely color scheme. And even seeing some of those azure flowers as well there, as they sort of, help bridge the gap from the sort of smaller lower arms up into these sort of more muscular upper arms there. That's a very, very cool looking technique there, and a nice use of those pieces, that's for sure. So yeah, this is a very fly samurai here. I thoroughly enjoy this. Very, very cool. And that's it for all the different samurai mocks in this episode today. If you enjoyed seeing these builds, check the links in the description and see some of the other stuff that these builders have made. Hey, maybe even comment on their stuff and let them know what you think of what they've built today. Additionally, in the description below is links to my own social media, so if you want to see some stuff that I've made, including that crab I mentioned before, it's all there for you. And otherwise, if you want to submit some of your own mocks to the show, you can do so through the email that's currently on your screen. Send me whatever information you feel is important in that email, and then I will do my best to put your mock in a future episode when I can. That's pretty much everything, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Happy building, and bye for now.